Now tuning in to Earbud Media. Audio for everyone.
Yeah, third time's the charm.
Yeah.
Wow, didn't even land that one.
Third time's the Charlie Swan.
Yes, so true.
That is how I choose to believe in this world.
Yeah. And honestly, that's my philosophy. It's my live, laugh, love.
Oh my god. Can you imagine that in one of those, like, TJ Maxx fonts?
Yeah, or like the Ray Dunn.
Oh my
like, little
god.
mugs and stuff. Yeah. Oof.
Just get that in the, like, Ray Dunn font, and then the background art is, like, all of those bottles with vegetables in oil, like we grew up with.
Yes, yeah.
And that's home. That's home to me.
We did it. We're...
Someone just put us in a room with no windows, and we could come up with all the art for a TJ Maxx.
Yeah, I think we should just be hired as the creative directors of TJ Maxx.
Somewhere. But they're, we're just too powerful for them.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's why, the most powerful people have podcasts.
Right, famously. That's what happens, it's a pivot to podcasting, and that's
Absolutely.
how you've made it.
The most powerful
as a
people have
star.
podcasts, but they don't have ads, because we respect your time.
Right, exactly. Right. We care about you, okay?
Absolutely. We do this for you. Hey,
we here for you.
Hi.
Yo.
Welcome to Into the Twilight. More than ever in these almost 6 years, we are sitting squarely in the early 2010s this week.
Yes. Yes.
We hope
the
you're
early
comfortable.
2010s have been all consuming this week, and so it feels like home. Feels natural.
Get your sweaty ballet flats. Get your galaxy print.
Oh, no. Yes.
Get
absolutely.
your circle scarves. Fuck, what else?
God, yeah.
Get your purple eyeliner that you learned how to use from Bethany Moda.
Yes. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Get your multiple
Y'all still have
pairs
Coney
of
stickers
Converse.
somewhere? Yeah,
And you're home. You're home
yeah,
here.
you're here. When you're here, you're family.
Get your various pop culture interests that you no longer can say because they've all been canceled.
Yes. Oh my god. All of your flat-brimmed snapbacks with aggressively embossed text or numbers on it.
Yeah, or, Doctor Who bands, right?
Yes. Hey.
Listen, we've all been there.
Everyone. Hey, everyone. I really like your shoelaces. I think they're so cool
stop.
and so good. We love it to see it.
I will say I'm exhausted, but I also know saying that in front of you feels, I would imagine, insulting because I don't work in media anymore. I'm just saying that as a consumer.
Yeah.
But welcome to the 2010s. As always, we're glad that you're here. How are you? Hey.
Hey.
How you doing?
Listen, it's been a week full of immense gossip and delicious content.
Yeah, it's been a decade of a week, I'll say that for sure.
It's been a decade of a week for sure. Super having a great time with that, loving every second of it. I was gonna say something else, but I think this is a more appropriate chaotic happy thing.
Please.
I saw the motion picture Don't Worry Darling.
Okay. All right. Tell me everything.
Listen, in Harry Styles' defense, it did feel like a movie. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Like it did feel like it was a movie.
Okay.
Was it? I don't know,
Who's to
actually,
say?
about that. Who's to say? It's also a very hard movie to talk about without, like, giving things away, though it's not really even, like, a huge thing. Like, I think people are, like, making a big deal out of, like, twists and turns, and it's like, this is kind of, if you're seated for this movie, you know what you're getting kind of experience. But it is the most buck wild experience I've ever had in a theater in a very long time.
Okay.
Everyone was laughing for much of this movie.
Oh no. And it's
there
not a
were-
funny movie.
No, it's not a funny movie.
Oh, no.
It's not a funny movie. I think the styles of it all was a big part of that, because he is not good
Right.
at acting.
Right. Yes.
Which I think we all assumed, right?
Yeah.
But, like, he is in so much of this movie. He is so much of this movie. So that really took a wild thing. It is definitely a movie that you watch. And I think a lot of people, too, have been like, this is a great, like, plain movie. This is a great, like, movie you would watch at home, right? And I'm, like, kind of annoyed that it didn't go, like, straight to, like, Hulu or something, or, like, some sort of situation, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, I feel like it could have been, like, better, but they're like, no, we're getting this big theater situation, theater only, like, blah, 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 whatever. Make a big moment out of it. And
Do you
it's
think
like,
Olivia Wilde actually thought this would contend with, like, award season?
Yes, I think so. I
No,
think that was,
stop
like,
it.
the plan, right? Like, I think that's her, because you can tell, listen, this movie is her trying to do Stepford Wives so bad, right? But, like, she does not have the range, or also the ability to, like, lean into the camp of it, right? Like, I think this movie makes sense in a way that, like, oh, this is hilarious, and also, like, in a surreal way, right? But she's like, no, this is very serious. And it's like, no, wait, you missed it. No, we were having a good time and then you missed it. And also the drama of it all obviously is inescapable. But also, I had no clue that Olivia Wilde was, like, prominently in this movie. I thought she was, like, a cameo, maybe.
Yeah,
so
I
that
thought that
threw me
was
for
the
a
whole
fucking
point.
loop.
Was that
Right,
she
no,
wasn't
she's, like,
it.
in it. She's in it. She's very much in it. And I'm like, this makes everything much more confusing and also kind of hilarious. But yeah, I'm excited for people to watch it in, like, the safety of their own homes. I don't think you need to risk anything to, like, go see it in a theater. But it is fun, at least with an audience or, like, people that you like at home or whatever, to just let it take over you in a fugue state kind of vibe. Because I think that's the best way to enjoy this. Florence Pugh's never done anything bad in her life, but she is here. So, you know, it's a real can of worms. But that bliss has been, and also, yes, I fell for it too. I went and saw it. So, like, I'm part of the problem.
Sure.
But also, it's a cultural moment. We had to see, right? We had to see what she was up to, what this whole thing was leading to. And it was bananas.
Oy.
And I'm obsessed.
The whole thing has been very wild to see. And I don't know I guess eventually when it does make it
Yeah.
to a streaming service, I will watch it. But the idea that it didn't do what they were doing almost, 2 years ago of, like, a simultaneous like HBO drop,
Yeah. for
wild
sure.
to me.
Yeah, because this feels like a movie you would very comfortably, like, scroll past on a streaming service. Be like, oh yeah, let's give that a shot, right? Like, let's see,
Right.
let's go on this adventure. But, like, them making a big deal about it, it's like, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, my guys. Like, this is not the vibe. But it was happy in the sense that I experienced the historic moment of all this drama colliding into, I guess, a fully formed motion picture that ended up being on people's screens.
What an absolute mess.
Yeah, but I'm here for it in all of its chaos.
Amazing.
So yeah, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm here. I'm alive.
Yeah.
It is currently sunny, but kind of, it's my ideal temperature. It's like 60-ish right now.
Beautiful.
So I'm happy. It is unfortunately going to be getting darker earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been trying to start my hibernation process and find things that I know will help me stay happy when we inevitably get to the part where it's dark at like 4 and I don't have the motivation to do anything. And that for me means, how do I make my life as convenient as possible? Yeah. And so my happy thing this week is the applesauce that is a squeeze applesauce.
Ooh, yes.
Not the stuff that you have to use a spoon for.
Yeah.
And I admire all the people that are like, my grocery bill is $30 a week and I don't buy anything that's pre-made because I have the spoons to make everything homemade. Listen, that's not my truth.
Yeah.
Because if I have to do all of, and I can do some, but if I have to do everything, that means that from breakfast to lunch, which sometimes is noon, but most often is like 2. That's a long time. Between 7 to 2, I won't eat anything.
Yeah, turns out that's actually a lot.
Turns out is not actually how my body prefers to function. I need snack. So
snack's so important.
Yeah, and so one thing that helps with that is when I go into the kitchen, I say, well, I could make myself a snack.
Yeah.
Which my executive functioning says, or I could just sit on the floor and smack my face. Or I could
both
grab
compelling options, yeah.
this beautiful squeeze applesauce. And that immediately allows me to have more health bar.
Yeah.
And turns out that is a purchase that is worth it in my book.
Listen, invest in yourself, you know? Like,
listen.
Also, like, the aesthetic of just, like, a squeeze applesauce is, like, very cool. It's, like, healing your inner child, right?
Listen.
Being, like, also very, like, nutritious or whatever, but, like, in a fun little, like, Capri Sun packet, you know? Like, that's fucking fun. That makes snacking very fun. And also, like, hell yeah, I did something good for myself. We did it. Yes, go team.
Am I losing it, or did these like squeeze things just not exist when we were kids?
I feel like I remember seeing them like when I was in like high school and college. Right, yeah, like I remember that technology being like when I was in like high school, but I don't think it was like when I was a child that would have probably benefited from it the most, because like I was very much like traditional, like foil lid, peel it off,
yes,
scoop it with a spoon.
And something
but
about
I'm happy that this exists.
When I am like dehydrated, I'm going, I have exactly 2 minutes before another meeting.
Right.
The idea of like, oh, I can just have this squeeze off applesauce.
Yeah.
Is exactly what my brain needs. And you know what? It's worth it. It's worth it to me.
I love like the mental picture of you, instead of like shotgunning a beer, right? You're just like shotgunning an applesauce, just like so quick. You're like, all right, I got 2 minutes. Let's get this locked and loaded. Just gonna
no
slurp
joke.
This all up.
Friend of the family, Maddie Padilla, posted a photo on Twitter, I want to say a week ago, at what looked like a bar with the same squeeze applesauce I have, which is the Kirkland applesauce, at like a bar, out of what I think was her fanny pack. So,
oh my gosh,
you know what? It's
so brand approved across the board.
I just think that like there are other types of snacks that I use. And have. But this is a new one that I saw when I was doing my groceries. And I was like, you know what? Something about the idea of like getting a spoon and opening up the lid just feels like too much. And I know my cats, and one of my cats would absolutely use the like cup of the applesauce and
Yeah.
be like, yes, this is mine, thank you. Whereas he cannot do that with my applesauce squeeze. And it's just a very helpful way to make sure that I actually eat, which can be hard sometimes to do. So turns out nourishing yourself is good.
Pretty good, yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
And I approve of it. That's my political platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I'm here for it. Vote for us.
right.
2024.
Yep. That's my platform.
Applesauce squeezies for everyone in every home.
I just know that, like, I would have been what I thought was me just being like a bitch growing up was just me being hangry, and things that would have made it so much easier like that.
Yeah.
Someone, you know, like when they did the one of the most genius marketing of like, you need a V8, which is like gross. I don't want to drink tomato juice. It's just like you need a squeeze.
Just a little squeeze.
Just give
Is that a crime?
It's not a crime. No. Hey, speaking of crimes,
Oh.
we have an update from the love of my life, Short King, Penn Badgley.
Ugh. We love him. We support him.
We do
his
not,
endeavors.
unfortunately, support Trash Man, Joe Goldberg,
Yeah, no.
and his crimes.
Right. But our boy Penn, he's here.
He's
in our hearts.
here. I was talking to also a friend of the family, Rachel Whitehurst, who said she was talking about all of these recap podcasts that she's listening to as of late, and apparently I've heard of many of these, you know, like The Office and whatnot. But she was talking about one that there's for Boy Meets World, and which I did not know about. But she was saying that it's surprising that Penn and Leighton haven't done a Gossip Girl recap podcast.
Oh my god, that would be so fire.
Right?
Especially since, like, Gossip Girl has gotten a little bit of, like, a resurgence as of late, right? Like, obviously with the reboot and stuff, but a lot of people, like, either watching for the first time or rewatching again in the last year or so.
Yes.
I think it's, like, because, like, all those people from shows that you loved 10 years ago were like, oh my god, let's bank on this. Let's get all these podcasts and shit going. But I'm curious why Gossip Girl did not do that. Also, like, one thing about I know I'm just pivoting here, but like one thing I've always wanted to see, it's like a Gossip Girl retrospective, is an interview with Amy Heckerling, who famously directed Clueless and Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and also famously the Frank Ocean episode of Gossip Girl.
Oh shit.
And I've never found anything about her talking about it or why she was picked or like what, because that episode is wild, right? And I'm also very good at the show, and I'm like, why? I need people with more power than me to like track her down and be like, this is a wild moment in time and it's beautiful. I love it. I want more.
Penn has a podcast already.
Yes.
And what is Leighton doing?
Right.
Like,
no shade, but like also, what is she doing?
so I feel like they would have so much to talk about. I feel like they would both be able to pull everyone.
Right. The guest potential is incredible. Like, they have big social power here. Like,
and with the amount of music, they'd be able to get folks on there.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I'm just saying,
like a St. Vincent episode of like, where were you? How were you in like 2006?
I'm very hesitant about those, specifically like celebrity recap podcasts of like, if they were on it and now they're going back because like they're doing another,
and it's like the only thing they have
recap one
yes,
right
I saw
now.
That.
And sometimes it can feel very disingenuous of like, they just need the money and they know that this is an easy way.
Easy cash, yeah.
But I feel like this one, and I feel like a Gossip Girl one, because of the fact that it's been far more in conversation lately with it being on HBO, I feel like it would be I don't know. I feel like people would listen to it. So,
Yeah. So pitch to,
you know,
if
HBO.
you're free, Penn Badgley, you should do something.
Yeah.
With this
I'm
great idea.
I'm surprised
I know
that
you're a
it
devoted
hasn't
listener.
happened already.
Yeah, for real. Anyway, Joe Goldberg's.
Yeah. When we last saw in season 3, he was in Paris.
Yes.
And I thought that this season 4 was going to be in Paris, which is why we dunked on them so hard for filming in London.
Right.
But turns out season 4 is based in London, so...
So it turns out we were Boo Boo the Fool on that one, so whoopsie. Sorry about that.
I think they might have just realized that Joe doesn't fit as well in France.
In Paris. Yeah.
And he fits far better in London, perhaps.
Yeah, as a murderous professor.
Right.
A little suit coat. And
Until
stuff.
little Mr. Benedict Cucumber comes back and is like, oh.
Benedict Cucumber. Oh my god, imagine if this season is like a crossover.
I would
Sherlock,
literally die.
And it's like, and he tries to find out who it is.
I mean,
oh my
we're
god.
getting into that like 2010s resurgence so quickly. Do you know,
Yeah.
unironically, Connie, I'm getting heart palpitations. If Sherlock comes back, I apologize for who I will become.
Yeah, I don't think we will be able to handle this.
Because
like,
do
we're already
you
getting
know-
cool new Doctor Who. We're getting, like, what if we get Sherlock? I don't think.
Do you know what
we'll
the fucking
be able to
Fleabag
recover.
kids will do when they realize that Hot Priest was Moriarty the
Yeah.
whole time?
The whole time. Ugh.
And then they will fall so quickly into Super Hulock. Like, we will be done anyways.
Yeah.
I apologize to Joe Goldberg because everybody knows
Yes. Right.
that London is where James Bond lives. So
Right.
he's going to be killed at the end of the season.
Yeah, there's no way he survives this.
Right.
All of the Avengers of London coming
Yeah.
together, track this man down.
I will say that their promotional things this season have been really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the little teaser that they did with the blood.
Yes.
Even though
yeah.
I don't like blood. And then this trailer's wild. Of just like names everywhere, names.
Right. It's like intentionally vague, right? Of
Yeah.
Not actually being like, here are scenes from the show, right? It's like, here are all of these people and they're all going to be connected somehow. And like, ooh, we're going to figure it out. It's kind of like banking itself as like a murder mystery sort of thing,
Yeah.
right? Like that's how it feels in this trailer of like, ooh, whodunit, which like, we know whodunit. It's fucking Joe Goldberg. But like, why? And to who like was actually got, you know? But yeah, I think this like teacher vibe and also this like, he's really leaning into like the social hierarchy thing again, right? His social hierarchy
Yeah.
era of like getting to the top, right? All these people are phonies and fakes. You know, that kind of era. So I'm like interested of how it'll play out.
I agree. I wonder also how much longer they're gonna try and milk this show. But
Right.
I'm
Like how much realistically left does it have in it, right? Like I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But also even though I don't necessarily like the show, I love Penn.
Yeah.
And here's my dream. And I know that this won't resonate with you that much because you hurt my heart and you don't watch these, but what I really want is for Penn to stay in the Netflix like zeitgeist and to go onto one of Mike Flanagan's anthologies.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. I think he would do so well in that kind of environment.
Because we've already seen him do like a spoopy.
Right.
And
It can be dark and mysterious.
I think that he would do that dark really well.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I want. Oh, speaking of spoopy,
Oh.
Spoopy just joined. Do you have thoughts about Mike Flanagan? He knows it's October, and he's like, this is my season. It's time.
This is my time to shine.
It is time for Spoopy to rise.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, that is what I want, is I want him to stay and do Spoopy things. That's my dream, is more Penn.
Yeah.
Even if it's not...
Give that to me. We deserve it.
Gossip Girl adjacent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my hope. I can't believe that I'm saying this, but I'm really excited to talk about this pilot with you.
Yeah, same. What?
Okay. I don't even know where the fuck to start.
Right.
Because I think you started this episode like 30 minutes before I did last night.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that all of the episodes dropped at once.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either.
Which has to be why I've heard nothing about the show.
Right. Yeah.
Because
kind of just like dropped and then said, nope, figure it out. Also, the peacock of it all, too. I feel like it's probably a problem, which rip, but you know, whatever.
When I texted you like 5 minutes into this, I could not believe, one, that this was, even though it was on Peacock, that it had a mature rating on it, which made me very happy, personally, because it's going to be, I mean, it's going to cover like hefty content, so it would be kind of wild if they were going to keep it the way that the movie was, of like, we're going to skirt this and maybe we'll say fuck once.
Yeah. Yeah, they really went in. And like,
the first thing Rose says.
Right. Yeah. Like, this show, just to start, at least this pilot, I had a great time. I was not expecting this. It was like, because they made a lot of interesting choices and changes, which we will get more in depth of, but like overarching, like, it is trying to be like CW / Gossip Girl.
It is.
But Vampire Academy. But also like the royal aspect of it too. Like, I think that frame of it makes a lot of sense. And also like going deep into like the actual like, it's sexy and it's like, you know, people swear, whatever. Like, it makes a lot of sense how this was like envisioned and adapted, I guess. And I'm just like very excited for the rest of it, which I was not expecting
at all. No.
Period. At all. No way. Like,
especially when what we had talked about prior to this was that Ferrero was not involved.
Right.
Also, can we talk about the fact that someone actually someone saw Rochelle's name? Or was it that they saw a Ferrero Rocher commercial? And they thought about Rochelle. Amazing.
Our impact.
I love our influence. But the Rochelle was not involved in this, and so I went in thinking like, oh god, it's a Peacock show. Like, Rochelle's not involved. We had seen those kind of like weird sets, and so my expectations for this were so low.
Yeah.
But then seeing how they played this, of it's either present day or it's a little bit in the future, it makes the sets make a lot more sense now, because I was reading those sets from the context of the book, which is like 2005 to 2008, and a lot of those looked a lot more gaudy. But now, especially with the way that they integrated tech into this, it plays more sci-fi than what it had before. It doesn't look, I think also the way that they put it into the show, it doesn't look as cheesy, which honestly surprised me.
Yeah, I was worried. But it like actually was not distracting, or like flowed really well, like within the context.
And it made sense. The way that like, and stuff that I would have thought like Rochelle would have done, that if it was in present day or a little bit in the future, like, of course they would have broadcast the Queen's message on the castle building.
Right, yeah.
And and stuff like that, whereas we didn't have those kinds of things in a book that was written in 2005.
Right.
It
Exactly.
wouldn't have, I mean, she could have, but it would have felt a little bit out of place since she was doing it in present day.
Right. One of the things that surprised me that they changed,
And they had many changes.
There was many of them, yes, and they're all important. But one of the things that really kind of threw me in a good way is that Lissa's the main character.
Yeah.
Like, Rose is not the main character.
And it's
which is
not
a very
in,
interesting choice.
Which means that we don't get the first person narrations like the movie did.
Right, yes, exactly. And, like, so that automatically, like, totally changes your perspective of how you're viewing this story. Because seeing it, even if it's not directly her POV, it's, like, centered and focused on her. You kind of get, like, a lot of the stuff that we didn't really get outside of, like, you know, within the book of, like, the Mind Bond Babe stuff, right?
Yeah.
But, like, you kind of get to see, like, the struggle and the interactions that she's experiencing in real time.
I agree.
And it's, like, very fascinating.
Some of the changes in this, I am confusion about.
Yeah.
The change from Rose to Lissa at this time doesn't bother me. My cat
Right.
is killing me right now. That one doesn't bother me though. I think now it makes sense because I feel like for the general public, it. Can you hold on a second? I'm gonna kill this cat.
Yeah.
Can you please stop? It sounds so loud. Come eat this grass. Here, come eat this grass. It sounds like a train wreck, my cat. Okay. My God. I don't
We're
know
back.
if it was that loud on your end, but it was like...
Yeah, I could hear it a little bit, but it was like Scratchtown, USA.
like fucking nails on chalkboard. Okay. That change doesn't bother me right now. I'm going to be curious, and hopefully right now I want more seasons. That might change.
Yeah. Right. At this moment, yes.
Like when we get to stuff like Russia,
Yeah.
it's going to be weird, but we'll see.
Yes. And also just like stuff with Dimitri too, right? Because
Literally.
obviously that relationship will now happen sort of more in the sidelines.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, seeing as that is a crucial component of this entire thing.
Yeah.
Also, the Dimitri changes of it all
Okay.
are also very interesting.
So Dimitri's not Russian.
He's not Russian. He also hasn't been
Scottish?
working here for his
Question
whole
mark?
life. Yeah. Right. Some accent, allegedly, is happening here.
He's something. It is unclear at this time if he and Jesse have beef.
Right.
To be determined, I guess.
Yeah, TBD. I guess we'll see.
To be determined. Some of the changes that really stuck with me when they started this episode is not where they started the book. So we get to see Andre.
Yes.
Alive.
And his whole ass butt.
And his whole ass. Which truly, I was like, oh my God, Andre, you're alive. And then it was like, whoa, your ass is out.
Right.
Then we do get to see the crash. What I'm assuming they will do is flash back to the crash. Because we just go like snap 3 months later, essentially.
Right.
Because Andre's dead, her parents are still dead, but Lissa and Rose make it out of the car wreck. As we know from the book, Rose didn't make it out of that car wreck. So
Right.
I'm assuming at some point they're going to go back to that car wreck when Lissa's like, no, actually not on my watch.
Yeah, because like there are like hints to the Bond thing. Also, like it changes the timeline, right? Too, because we don't get that.
They don't escape.
They don't escape and they don't go like hang around
No.
Seattle or whatever. Like they don't do their whole little girls trip situation.
No, they just go. Lissa just went on essentially like bereavement with Victor for 3 months.
Yes. Right. And then came back and Rose like, hell yeah, we're gonna be besties, whatever. And then now Dimitri is here.
Yeah.
Instead of Dimitri finding them once they've escaped and bringing them back. And now Dimitri's like this like new guy on the block
Yeah.
who's now gonna be Lissa's guardian until if Rose graduates and they, you know, choose each other or whatever. But like it changes sort of like the relationship already from the start because you're like, oh, interesting.
It
like
changes
there's a lot of different context. and
everything.
stuff. Right.
Because that was, I mean, the reason why they escaped showed Lissa being like, fuck this, I'm not doing the politics. I'm not doing any of
Yeah.
this. It showed Rose being, because they do later on, when they go, quote, escape to do the
Right.
sending off of the lanterns, that's when they show all of the things like Janine being pissed at her
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Alberta and stuff, but like that's nothing. They do that stuff
Right.
all the time in the books.
Yeah, they're always rascals.
Exactly. Like that's just who
They're
they
never
are.
following the rules. Yeah.
But it showed Rose's commitment to Lissa's happiness, which is like a guardian's whole thing. And Rose doing anything to keep Lissa alive, which was
Yeah.
why when Rose met when Dimitri, you know, gathered Rose and Lissa in Portland,
Right.
that
Yeah.
was such an interesting meeting for them. Whereas when they met on campus, which is not Montana, by the way,
Yes. Right.
very clearly not Montana, it was just like, Dimitri, you just slammed Rose to the ground and she had a horse in her hand. So,
Right. That was it. It was just
Sir.
a cute little gift. Sir.
also, something that they changed about Rose, she has like superpowers. Like, why
Yeah.
the fuck can she jump off a castle and not snap her legs in half?
Right.
And that is like,
Yeah, I
not
think the way they
explained.
did the like Dampier thing of like I think that they want to make it more clear that they are part vampire, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that's a little less, I think in the books they read more human than they are, outside of like being a little bit faster, maybe a little bit stronger. And I think maybe for TV they're like need to make sure that people don't think
Yeah.
there's humans because there's like you know like 3 different levels of like who you are in this society, right?
Which they
to
do
some
make
extent,
very
and
clear
they're-
at the beginning with those like overlay
God.
definitions.
The intro first of all, the intro for the series is wild. Like the way they had like the like photo editing of all the characters and their names, and then also like, and again, they don't do like a lot of exposition. Like I was watching this with my partner and had to be like, okay, so here's
It really
this is
wasn't
what
a
Amroy
lot,
is.
no.
This is what this is, and like this is how they sort of interact with each other, and they kind of just like throw it on in like tiny text for like 2 seconds each time and being like, you get it, right? It's like, I don't know if people like who aren't as deep in the sauce as we are, like get it. But I see that it's like kind of a lot to explain and kind of boring, but it's also like, I think this is helpful for people.
I was
to figure it out.
afraid at that beginning that exposition was going to be the like the actual intro, like first kill was, and thank God
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was the
Right.
title card came after the crash to kind of show like, here's all the intro, here's what you needed.
Right.
Now let's
Here's
get
what you missed on
into
Glee.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that you had said this last night, and I hadn't gotten there yet. Can we please talk about Christian?
I love him.
He's so
love him.
hot.
He's very dreamy. He's like perfect for Christian, I think. I think at the time when we were figuring out casting stuff, like a lot of these people were like new to us, right? Like a lot of them haven't done like a lot of big things.
Yeah, the
before.
only one I know is Mia because we just watched Persuasion,
Right, yes.
and she fits
and
perfectly. By the way,
she's exactly the vibe. And so Christian walking in here, I was like, okay, what's gonna happen? And like that intro of him is delicious. Like that is what Tumblr fanfiction was made for.
Oh
Like
my
this is
God.
like what like in this, and the way that the church is like much more grand, I feel like, than I was like imagining
yeah.
in my head in the book. Like it is gorgeous, and there's like all these like candles and stuff. And I think too that like they also play with how they talk about technology too, because like Liz is reading this like, you know, Moroi language and trying to memorize it and being like, hey, can we get like a light on in here or something? You think that'd be helpful? And they're like, that will the pages will explode. They're thousands of years old, so you cannot do that. And she's like, got it, that makes sense for sure. Let's just do candlelight. And like Christian like just saunters in by like getting rid of the lights and then like putting them back in, like having this orb of flame kind of like moving around, and it's so sexy.
It's
like,
so,
hello.
They're making
The
him come off
tension.
really like suave, like.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Yeah.
I get. I understand why they're doing that for the television show. He's coming off less snarly than he was in the
Yes.
books. And one of the reasons why I love Christian is that he's snarly.
Yeah, I am missing a little bit of like the edge
Yeah.
for sure, but like I think as like a first meeting sort of thing, and also like kind of glazing over like the whole Strigoi thing for a second. I think that was a kind of confusing moment
Right.
for people that aren't like knowing his whole lore and backstory. Of just being like, yeah, I'm kind of a bad boy, but like he isn't really a bad boy yet, right? Like it's not really like established there. And I think maybe that's just to like have this like kind of pseudo romantic moment or like at least temptation moment. But I think once we get more into like the politics of things, then maybe that will change. But I am excited to keep watching him.
The way that
Christian.
they played him in this pilot just comes off like the rest of their school is being discriminatory towards him, which is true.
Yeah.
And
Right,
exists. But Christian is
Yeah.
also an asshole. And so,
Yes.
like,
Right.
I'm
And
missing
people
that
contain
part
multitudes.
of him where it's like, in the book, Lissa goes up to his attic where he hangs out in the church, and it's like, that's the whole thing. And I get why they didn't do an attic in this. It's far more cinematic and pretty that they did
Yeah.
this part. But that's the whole thing, is it's like, why is she invading his space kind of thing.
Yes, right.
But I love them. I love that he ended up going to her like pseudo coronation thing
Yeah.
and was like, I don't usually go to these things, but
right,
whatever.
but I'll be here for you when
Yeah.
it's fine.
I can't believe I'm gonna say this, and I was annoyed when I wrote this down. Mason is unfortunately pretty,
Mason is really pretty.
and
it's kind
I
of
wish
fucked
that
up.
they hadn't cast him as like pretty.
Yeah, and he's kind of like nice.
He
really
is.
nice. And like we kind of, and it's nice to, it's interesting too in this, like obviously in the books he was more like sad puppy dog
Literally.
that wanted
Yeah.
her love and attention, and like ended up getting this like relationship, right? But like this pseudo relationship, but like in here it's kind of already implied that they're like fuck buddies.
Right.
And at that moment where they're like having this conversation, Rose is kind of like, you know, really sad or whatever. She obviously in her coping mechanisms is like, okay, let's just make out and like figure this out. And he's like, well, no, how about we like talk about our feelings? And Rose is like, I don't know about that. With you, with feelings? And it's like sweet, but it's like, oh man, I'm gonna be very sad if this goes the way that it goes, you know.
Right. It
Which
is-
rip. Ugh.
They've made some interesting changes. That, and a lot of them I don't hate. One, I will say,
Yeah.
that might come to bite them in the ass is the amount of persuasion that they're having all of the Moroi use. So I know Mia used it. I know Lissa used it. They also had Christian use his persuasion skills, and he was good at them, which is canonically not
so-
true.
Canonically a bad. bad.
He's supposed to be bad at doing that, so not true.
Yeah.
I did find it also interesting that we seem to be getting the introduction of Rose bonding with Lissa.
Yes.
And we didn't,
Yeah, we get
that wasn't the case in the book. That was already established. So
Yeah.
we get to see the babes bond here.
right. Yeah, it's interesting too to see how that will carry out, because
Yeah.
obviously we're operating on a different timeline, and now it's like, oh, we're gonna do all this like royal stuff and also like figure out the whole Dimitri thing and like all this kind of stuff, and also figure out this new relationship we have to each other that we don't really know about yet,
Right.
which is interesting.
Yeah, another thing that they kind of changed, and I think it's more so seeing it played out on screen, but I was very obsessed with how the Guardians fight and train.
The fight choreography here is so sick. Like the way, I think like the cool outdoor set too, like makes a lot of sense. With like all the big lights and these like big buildings or whatever. And they have this like leaderboard, like this ranking leaderboard of like how good everyone's doing. And kind of like, I do wish like we have more of Rose in this. Like I appreciate like the focus on Lissa, because I think her perspective is very interesting. But I do think it seems like Rose is like this like secondary best friend kind of vibe, right? At this moment where like really she's like number one on the leaderboards, really trying her best out here, like the best in the biz, and then like has this moment where she's not anymore.
Yeah.
And that's like a big struggle for like her ego and like her snarkiness that we don't really get to see fully.
Right.
But like the actual fighting and stuff is so sick. Like the way they move is like liquid. It's wild.
They clearly spent a lot of money on the choreography here, and I'm very glad that they did, because this show has so much combat in it that if you cheaped out on that, it would make this show unwatchable.
Like infinitely worse. Yeah.
And a lot of because they have to train at night, like that's how the show works, is it's nocturnal. But the way that they had the lighting and the scoreboards, it reminded me a lot of Divergent, but in a good way.
Right, like opposite of derogatory.
Yeah. Because that's one of the things that I enjoyed about watching Divergent was those training scenes. And they have a lot of, currently, the dynamic between Rose and Dimitri is they're playing it a lot like Four and Triss, where they're like having Rose say like, you're just having a staring contest with the air. Like it's very it's very hot to me, and I like it a lot.
Yeah. Ugh. I miss the leather duster. I miss the cowboy aesthetic. I miss the Russian vibes here. But I do think their relationship in this format like makes sense. Like in a way of her like trying to compete with him for his job, basically.
Right.
Like has a different context and a different like, you know, enemies to lovers situation going on there, as opposed to like a teacher relationship, right? Because I'm sure they wanted to like skirt away from that sort of thing. In this, like he's obviously like an authority, right? So there's obviously a different thing going on there, but it's like not as direct in that way, because they are technically like on the similar level. So it's like interesting how that plays out with everything else.
One of the other changes that they made that I think you would only know, and they did make this pilot, I think, for people that had read these books, which is an interesting thing. But one of the things you would only know if you had read these books was that Mia and Sonia are related.
Yeah.
And one of the parts that, there were quite a few parts of this pilot that made me fucking just like laugh out loud. But one of Mia talking with Victor, who Victor is also very pretty for no reason.
Yes. So fucked up.
But I understand why, given his whole arc. But Mia talking about, I think she's like, what is with Sonia and these fucking birds?
Right.
Was so hilarious to me. And I'm very glad that I think her name actually is Mia, is playing Mia. Because having seen her in Persuasion, she's playing a same person in this.
It's such a great like role, like switch. It's amazing because like even too in that like car scene or whatever where they're like driving up and like doing their little eyeball ID check situation, and the dude at the outside is like, not a royal. We have 2 royals and 1 non-royal in here, and she's just like immediately like, not yet. Like it's just so funny. She's just like the perfect encapsulation of her entire like. I love it so much, vibe.
And I think that it's, given how much I didn't like Mia, at least in like the first book or 2.
Yeah. Before she got an arc and an actual backstory.
Right. Exactly. It is helpful to have someone who's really good at playing that type of character for this. How did you feel
Yeah.
about the person that was cast for the queen?
I was very confused when she first popped up, like on that screen. I was like, oh, okay, that's like not how I envisioned in my head. Because I think too, like, I don't know. I think the way that the monarchy it works in this series is like interesting, right? And I think I always assume, and maybe this is my own personal biases of like reading something about vampires. I'm like, oh, everyone is like eternally young forever, right? Like that's like, even if you're the queen, like I would imagine like Tatiana, right, is like more of like that sort of vibe, right? But like having this like woman, this older woman who's like in vampire years 200 years old, but like
Right.
looks like probably like 80 or something, right? Kind of threw me off because I was like, oh, that actually makes logistically more sense, but like in my brain reading the book, I like that never actually clicked like that.
Yes.
But I think like she's interesting because she's kind of a gossip, which I love.
Yes.
I love that. She's kind of like, yeah, what's the tea on Rose? She's kind of like annoying and like always in the way and like all these things.
And
I
like
think
not
we're
listening to people's rules. She's like, what are you going
No.
to tell me? I'm the queen.
right. I'm the queen. Okay. Like whatever. And I think too, like we're getting a lot more of like the politics of this than we did in this time in the book, right? Because like this is like, oh, I'm like stepping down, so I'm going to appoint someone like very soon, and it's like it has a much more of an urgency to it. And obviously with like Lissa's whole deal, like there's a lot of things like coming at once, and having this like now you get to see sort of like the behind the curtains thing because we're not tied to Rose's perspective, of like the pomp and circumstance of royal life, right? And like how these things actually work out in a broader scale, which I think is interesting. Like I am curious about like that sort of the wheels turning in that sort of regard.
Yeah, I think the fact that this pilot ends with her naming Lissa as the successor was felt like, whoa, we've skipped quite a bit.
Yeah,
Of
we
content?
are on like book 4 right now. What's going on? Like even later, it's like what the
But I also understand that's kind of how pilots have to work, in the sense that like you are throwing everything at the wall and hoping you get another episode. So I will say, overall, after this, like I wanted to keep watching.
yeah.
And
it was
that
really
is
hard to not let it go.
That is not what I expected watching this show. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
pleasantly
was
surprised.
surprisingly impressed.
Yeah.
Which I was not expecting.
I'm wondering now, do you think that this first season is going to still try and follow just the first book?
I don't know, because now everything is so different timeline wise. It's hard to
know.
like pin where and what they will take from, and also have like a cohesive season of content, right? So I'm unsure of like if it's gonna like end with the big fight or whatever, or if there's like more political stuff going on, or like how the bond plays into things. Like I don't know like what they will pick and choose from.
Because that's what it's kind of felt like in that pilot, was they were kind of picking and choosing. The fact that they
Yeah.
already had Lissa rooming with Mia, and
Right. Yeah.
that Rose was living not on her own but in guardian housing, which that was not a thing.
Right.
I'm very curious on what these changes are going to be, but the fact that I was like curious and wanted to keep watching, I think is a testament to this adaptation.
Yeah.
So
Ugh,
I'm
so fascinating.
I am surprised, and the next episode is called Earth, Air, Water, Fire.
Okay, great.
So I think that there will be a little bit more lore, I think, for people who have not read the books to understand.
Yeah.
If they were confused when they saw that like magic hookah, they will understand.
The magic cuckoo was so funny. That was so good.
They will understand a little bit more about how like the cake lit up and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. We have some amazing patrons to thank. Do you want to start us off?
Absolutely. Thank you to Katie Black.
Ooh, thank you to Kylie Minty.
Pew, pew, pew. Thank you to Alex Dornan.
Ooh. Thank you to Mouch Gray.
Mulch.
Mouch.
Thank you to Jasmine Anastasia.
Ooh. Thank you to Megan Pattinson.
Pew, pew, pew. Thank you to Cassandra O'Shea.
O'Shea. Thank you to Katya Karp.
Pew, pew, pew. Thank you to Hope Castile.
Ooh. Thank you to Rachel Ashford.
Pew, pew. Thank you to Maddie Facinelli.
Ooh. Thank you to Samara Rinaldi.
Pew, pew. Thank you to Genevieve Morgan.
Ooh. Thank you to Tess Avery.
Ow. Ooh. Thank you to Danielle Burke.
Ooh. Thank you to my mom, your mom, our mom, Kelly Beck.
Mom. Thank you to Sophia Salinger.
Ooh. Thank you to Laura Forty.
Ow, ow. Thank you to Dan Seklos.
Ooh. Thank you to Maria Swan.
Pew, pew, pew. Thank you to India Peach.
Ooh. Thank you to Emily Ozera.
Ow, ow, ow. And last but certainly not least, thank you to Jaylene Ivashkov.
Ooh. It's been a while, but I have a fan fiction.
It's been a while. Amazing. So excited.
This is titled 1:25 p.m. and it was written by Moon by the Sea, and the summary goes a little bit like this. Rose and Lissa have been best friends their entire lives. It only made sense that they would both go to the same college and become roommates. However, when Lissa's most challenging class is online and her anxiety spikes, Rose decides to step in to go to Lissa's TA office hours. Only the camera is on, and she is now pretending to be Melissa Drum. Taken place over the period of a semester where Rose meets Dimitri. However, he thinks she's someone else. This is from chapter 1.
Oh my god.
One by one, he answered all of her questions and even helped her with her pronunciation on some of the authors that were mentioned. Rose found that if she wasn't doing this for Lissa, she didn't know how she would be able to concentrate, as she kept finding herself just wanting to stare at him. His voice was soft, even with the Russian accent, and he always took his time explaining so that way she would have a better grasp of it. Oh, I see now. That guy was just being a dick. Rose spoke at last, and Dimitri paused. She could see a small smile try to take form. However, he held back. I'm not sure I would write that. As the answer, however, I'm inclined to agree with your perception of the main character, he replied. Rose laughed. Not eloquent enough of an answer? She asked innocently. He shook his head. No, I'm afraid it would not be up to the college writing standard. He betrayed a small smile. Rose liked the way it framed his features. Any other questions? Lissa, he asked politely. Rose looked at the clock and saw that his office hours were almost done. Yeah, one more. Are all of the assignments going to be this shitty? She asked him, pretending not to notice Lissa groaning into her pillow. Dimitri looked at her oddly before looking over the assignment and frowning. Rose waited, hoping she hadn't just accidentally gotten Lissa on her TA's bad side. But then he only shook his head. You know, I think you might be right. I didn't create the assignments, but I understand why the phrasing might be throwing a few students off. I'll try and look over the assignments and see if there's anything I can clarify in class to make it easier. Rose felt herself grin at this man. He was unlike anyone she had ever met before. And seen.
Wow. Ugh.
Just a little school time.
Just a little
love.
Fun treat. I love it.
Also, just that audacity to be like, hey, I know you're TA for this class, but your professor sucks butt.
Like, hey man, just want to let you know. You suck.
I know you have no control over this, and if you're being paid,
But could we
it's
do
very
something
marginal,
about this?
but this sucks, so congrats
I
on
hate
that.
it.
I do not envy that. Well, folks, we are in a new month.
Yes.
We are starting a new thing, which means it's a great time to tell your friends. And
Come on down. Let's go.
use, aka borrow, but I'm not telling you to do anything, your friend's Peacock subscription
Yes.
to watch Vampire
Yes.
Academy.
Yes. Come along for the ride.
But you know what I mean. Definitely, wink, use your own.
Yeah.
Take care of yourselves. And as we say here in the Pacific Northwest,
Get bit.
and get whipped.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Into the Twilight is an Earbud Media production. You can follow us on Twitter at Into the Twilight or on TikTok at Into the Twilight Show. You can find me at Cody Corral on Twitter and Allie at Alexandria Does. And you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Into the Twilight. We have merch, so much stuff. All those links are in the episode description. And make sure to rate and review us on your favorite podcast hosting platform. It really helps the show. Thanks. Bye.
You've been listening to Earbud Media Production. Earbud Media, audio for everyone.